He had really ugly feet. He was rather ruining the whole business of ethereal genius for me. But he had the answers. Well, I said, first, we don't want to say thank you for dinner last night, and we bought them dinner last night? Van Houten asked Ludovic. Yeah, at Orange. Ah, yes. Well, believe me when I say that you do not have me to thank, but rather Ludovic, who is exceptionally talented in the field of spending my money. It was our pleasure, Ludovic said. Well, thanks, at any rate. Augustus said. I could hear annoyance in his voice. So here I am, Van Houten said after a moment. What are your questions? Augustus said. He seems so intelligent in print. Van Houten said to Ludovic regarding Augustus. Perhaps the cancer has established a beachhead in his brain. Peter, Ludovic said, duly horrified. I was horrified too, but there was something pleasant about a guy so despicable that he wouldn't treat us deferentially. We have some questions, actually, I said. I talked about them in my email. I don't know if you remember. I do not. His memory is compromised, Ludovic said. If only my memory would compromise, Van Houten responded. So our questions, I repeated. She uses the royal we. Pierre said to no one in particular. Another sip. I didn't know what scotch tasted like, but if it tasted anything like champagne, I couldn't imagine how it could drink so much, so quickly, so early in the morning. Are you familiar with Gino's tortoise paradox? He asked me. We have questions about what happens to the characters after the end of the book is specifically Anna's. You wrongly assume that I need to hear your question in order to answer it. You're familiar with the philosopher Gino? I shook my head vaguely. Alas, Gino was a pre-Socratic philosopher who is said to have discovered 30 paradoxes within the worldview put forth by Parmenides. Parmenides, surely. You know Parmenides, he said, and I noted that I knew Parmenides, although I did not. Thank God, he said. Gino professionally specialized in revealing the incuracy, the incuracies and oversimplifications of Parmenides, which wasn't difficult, since Parmenides was spectacularly wrong everywhere and always. Parmenides is valuable in precisely the way that it is valuable to have an acquaintance who reliably picks the wrong holes each and every time you take him to the racetrack. But Gino's most important, wait, give me a sense of your familiarity with Swedish hip hop. I could not tell if Peter Van Houten was kidding. After a moment, Augustus answered for me. Limited, he said. Okay, but presumably, you know, Afashi og Filthy's seminal album Flacken. We do not. I said for the both of us. Ludovic, play Bonfarella immediately. Ludovic walked over to an MP3 player, spun the wheel a bit, then hit a button. A rap song boomed from every direction. It sounded like a fairly regular rap song, except the words were in Swedish. After it was over, Peter Van Houten looked at us ex- expectantly, his little eyes as wide as they could get. Yeah? He asked. Yeah, I said. I'm sorry, sir, but we don't speak Swedish. Well, of course you don't, neither do I. Who the hell speaks Swedish? The important thing is not whatever nonsense the voices are saying, but what the voices are feeling. Surely you know that there are only two emotions, love and fear, and that Afashi og Filthy navigate between them with the kind of facility that one simply does not find in hip-hop music outside of Sweden. Should I play it for you again? Are you joking? Gus said. Pardon? Is this some kind of performance? He looked up at Littleby and asked, Is it? I'm afraid not, Littleby answered. It's not always. This is unusually. Oh, shut up, Littleby. Rudolph Otto said. Rudolph Otto said that if it had not encountered the numinous, if have not experienced a non-rational encounter with the mysterium tremendum, then his works was not for you. And I say to you, young friends, that if you cannot hear a Faccio Ophiuchus Brevadic response to fear, then my work is not for you. I cannot emphasize this enough. It was a completely normal rap song, except in Swedish. I said, so about an imperial affliction, Anasman, when the book ends, is about to. Van Houten interrupted me, tapping his glass as he talked until Littleby refilled it again. So Gino is most famous for his tortoise paradox. Let us imagine that you are in a race with a tortoise. The tortoise has a 10-yard head start. In the time it takes you to run that 10 yards, the tortoise has maybe moved 1 yard. And then in the time it takes you to make up that distance, the tortoise goes a bit further. And so on forever. You are faster than the tortoise, but you can never catch him. You can only decrease his lead. Of course, you just run past the tortoise without contemplating the mechanics involved. But the question of how you are able to do this turns out to be incredibly complicated, and no one really solved it until Cantor showed us that some infinities are bigger than other infinities. I said. I assume that answers your questions. He said confidently, then sipped generously from his glass.